one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call.
Holt,
Here.
Nikki. Here. Sarah. Here. Philip.
Here.
Hensley.
Here.
Bradford.
Here.
Tatum.
Here.
Lemings.
Here.
Batt.
Thank you. On agenda items, we have several changes. I want us to address these and vote on them each individually. There was, on Brian Tatum's ordinance, there was an emergency clause added to that because it was needed for the hazard pay. Do I hear a motion to approve the rewrite of that ordinance?
So moved. Second.
Okay. We have a motion by Justice, what's your name? We have a motion by Justice Mary Phillips, and we have a second by Justice Holt. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving that change signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We also have a removal of an ordinance that was sponsored by Nikki Brown. Do I hear a motion to approve of that removal? So be it.
Second.
We have a motion by Justice Holt, a second by Justice Phillips to remove Nikki's ordinance. She's the author. She is perfectly entitled to do that. Any discussion?
Well, we've won that.
Is needed.
It is not the one that we talked about with the building.
Okay.
Good question. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have one resolution that needs a sponsor that was presented by White River Planning and Development. Would someone care to pick that resolution up? Justice Holt? Okay, do I have that in the form of a motion for us to allow Justice Holt to sponsor?
Second.
We have a motion by Justice Phillips, a second by Justice Hensley to sponsor for Justice Holt to sponsor the additional resolution. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? And we have a lot of resolutions that are very wordy tonight. There was one that we had a request to read in its entirety that is sponsored by Justice Phillips. But the others, I would entertain a motion to entertain those tonight by title only.
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Justice Phillips, a second by Justice Lemings to entertain all but one resolution by title only. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? You have copies of the minutes of the last meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Justice Sarah Brown, second by Justice Hensley. And if I go too fast, y'all stop me. To approve the minutes as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Your motion to approve the treasurer's report.
Make a motion to approve as written.
Second.
We have a motion by Ron Tatum, second by Nikki Brown to approve the treasurer's report. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hear a motion to approve the appropriation analysis.
Move it be approved.
Second.
We have a motion by Justice Holt, a second by Justice Tatum to approve the appropriations analysis. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Do you have any questions about the county road and equipment report? It's pretty much business as usual. Do you have any questions about the sheriff's report? Justices, do you have any questions for any of the officials or department heads that are present? Department heads and officials, do any of you wish to approach the court tonight? Sheriff.
One small thing I want to address on the last meeting that J.P. Holt had asked about. On the CID activity log, on the DWIs, it was my misunderstanding. I looked at, that's just an investigation on a DWI if it were to have an accident tied with it or something. So they haven't had none. We have had them in patrol, obviously, so
All right.
that just clarifies that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I have a question.
Sure.
Ask the sheriff. Sheriff, how many are we holding now?
Do what, sir?
How many are we holding now?
Our count right now should be at 64, I believe, today.
Are those all federal?
Are they all federal?
Yeah,
No.
okay. How many federal are we holding?
Well, on the report here, let's find out. Teaching is
14 now?
sounds to be correct, yes. Should be 14, yes. We're at 14 right now. Our contract's for 20, and obviously due to the COVID.
We haven't had that report, or that hadn't been asked in quite a while.
Right, it's included in your report monthly. Gives you that count.
I do have a question for you as well. We've kind of talked about this on, is it getting easier? I know you had some that were gonna be headed to prison and they weren't taking them. Are they starting to take them now, or
And we've still got the same amount.
that they've already been convicted and we just have to hold
Sentenced.
them?
They've already been sentenced,
Yep.
yes. And they have not called to receive them yet, and I've instructed my supervisor to call every 2 days to try to move them.
How many you got? That's-
Right now, I've got 14. No, excuse me, that was federal inmates. I've got 17 that needs to go to ADC. We're trying.
Anything else? Good discussion, I love it. All right, I guess that brings us up into our new business, and we have a lot of it. And our first ordinance is sponsored by Justice Tatum.
Be it enacted by the Quorum Court of the County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled, an emergency ordinance to establish a new fund for the revenue loss fund and to transfer and appropriate $1,123,582 into the new fund. Whereas Van Buren County has received money due to COVID and revenue loss, and whereas these funds are to be placed in a separate fund, and whereas the Budget Committee has voted to pay premium pay to current employees who were worked through the pandemic from March 3rd, 2020 through May 30th, 2021 as follows. Full-time employees who worked a total of 7 months or more is $2,000. Part-time employees and/or employees who worked less than 7 months is $1,000. And whereas these employees will be paid from personal services in this new fund as required by law. Now therefore be ordained by the Quorum Court, Van Buren County, Arkansas, that a new fund be established for Revenue Loss Fund number 1801, Section 2. A total of $1,123,582 will be transferred from the American Rescue Plan Fund number 3046 and appropriated to the new fund number 1801-103, Revenue Loss Fund as shown below. 1801-103-1001, full-time salaries, $250,000. 1801-103-102, part-time salaries, $50,000. 1801-103-1006, Social Security matching, $22,950. 1801-103-1008, retirement, $38,300. 1801-103-9999, totaling $762,332. Section 3, emergency clause. It is imperative for the county operations to continue smoothly, efficiently, and effectively. Therefore, this ordinance being necessary for the protection and preservation of public health and safety, an emergency is hereby declared to exit And to ordinance shall be enforced and shall take effect upon passage and publication. I move to approve as written.
Second.
We have a motion by Justice Tatum and a second by Justice Phillips to approve this ordinance. Discussion.
The only question that I have is if on, where it starts with part-time employees and/or employees, I wonder if full-time should be inserted there. Maybe that doesn't matter.
Where's it at?
Third whereas clause,
Mhm.
just the way, full-time employees who worked 7 months or more, 2,000. Part-time employees and/or employees who worked, they still gotta be full-time to get 1,000 if they work less than 7. I don't know.
Correct,
if that-
part-time and
yeah,
full-time employees.
Just insert full-time in front of that second employees.
Okay. Is that in the?
I mean, I don't know, does it matter, or just for clarification?
It wouldn't hurt if you'd like to motion that in the form of.
I make a motion that we insert full-time employees who worked
So
less.
you're making a motion to amend.
Motion to amend.
Because they could mean employees that no
Second.
longer work here, too.
Okay, so we have a motion to amend the ordinance by Justice Nikki Brown and a second by Justice Mary Phillips to add the word full-time by the second employees under that line as discussed. Any other discussion on the amendment?
I'm just curious, how were those amounts compared to the 2001?
You betcha. Let's vote on the amendment and then we'll go back to overall discussion. Okay, roll call vote for the amendment.
Holt,
Yes.
Nikki,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Phillips,
Yes.
Hensley,
Yes.
Bradford,
Yes.
Tatum,
Yes.
Lemings,
Yes.
Bass.
Yes.
Thank you. Now your question.
How were the $2,000 amount and the $1,000 amount come up with?
Okay, well, it's kind of a long process.
Okay.
So, after some lengthy discussions, there was, we wound up following, some of the other counties that have done this. We were gonna do it by hours worked, and, some other scenarios there. So what we did is we come up with a final figure of $2,000, but we didn't feel that those that had worked, 2 weeks in there should get the same amount as those that worked all 14
Sure.
months.
Sure.
So, we come to a happy medium, I guess, after some discussion, that anything with 7 months, if you work less than 7 months, you got half of what those that work 14 months.
And then it was just a certain, however many hours. Because I've just heard different, it's weeks worked, days worked, whatever.
Well,
And I
we-
guess it's up to each entity, whether it's school, county, whatever, to disperse this money
Correct.
as they feel necessary.
We had a little more leniency than almost everyone else because we got to claim all of ours as lost revenue. So we get to.
Because the dollar amounts, look good for the employee to me.
Yes.
Well, I will say that we talked to other JPs from other counties, multiple other counties, and we got to discuss, how they came to their formulas, and at the end, it seemed like this was the best way to do it, you put a round figure on, and then, but we went further with separating it with the 7 months, so that someone that was there a week didn't get the whole thing.
The very fortunate part of it is hearing the horrible tales of how other counties had taken great amount of time, and it was very, very, very difficult. So it made us have a lot easier time to make everyone getting about the same amount of money. So.
Yeah, I need to, I would be amiss if I didn't take the opportunity to thank the budget committee, who put a lot of time and a lot of passion and a lot of back and forth and a lot of weighing out and coming to good compromise. I appreciate you guys. You've done a fantastic job.
And just to finish up with a little bit too, because it says premium pay, and I want to make it clear that this is not a bonus, this pay is based off of the risk taken during the pandemic, is how that, and I always called it hazard pay, because to me that's what it is. And I know it says premium pay, and that's what the state uses, but I like the word hazard pay.
And incidentally, JPs were not included.
How rude.
Just to further what Brian said, so for instance, if an employee worked at home, they were not considered, for this because they were not in any risk. So, and also behind me on the board, we figured the different totals for different amounts. And that's how we ultimately came up with the happy medium of the middle number based on the amount of employees in the county, to be conservative with the money and also compensate them for their time and risk.
And there was a lot of heated discussion.
But we got there all
We got
intact, and
As a team, we got there.
That's healthy. You guys disagreed, and then when the vote was had, everyone agreed. You came together, and I don't take that for granted. Thank you. All right, any other discussion?
I just had a question on this 18101, this last line, 103-9999, the 700,000 figure. What is that?
That is transfers out. What that is for all the projects that you approve, we can court order those into the proper line items.
So you don't have to
We
pay
can't
it.
go in and out of personal services without you guys approving.
Okay.
But in that transfers out line item, we can transfer into the proper line item without having to write an ordinance and publish it and all that. Good question, great question. Any other discussion? Roll call vote.
Holt, Nikki,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Phillips,
Yes.
Hensley,
Yes.
Bradford,
Yes.
Tatum,
Yes.
Lemings,
Yes.
Bass.
Yes.
2021-40.
Thank you. Now, our next ordinance is sponsored by Justice Sarah Brown.
Be it enacted by the Quorum Court of the County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled, an emergency ordinance to establish a new fund for grant monies for the Van Buren County Senior Citizen Center. Whereas the Van Buren County Senior Citizen Center will be receiving a community development grant, the CARES Act, in the amount of $100,035,370 for equipment and a vehicle for the Van Buren County Senior Center, and whereas when received, the grant monies will be required to be deposited into a special fund. Now therefore be it ordained by the Quorum Court of Van Buren County, Arkansas, that number one, a special fund will be established for the Senior Citizen Center Grant Fund number 3513, and number two, the emergency clause. It is imperative for the county operations to continue smoothly, efficiently, and effectively. Therefore, this ordinance being necessary for the protection and preservation of the public health and safety, an emergency is hereby declared to exit, and this ordinance shall be enforced and shall take effect upon the passage and publication. I move to approve as written.
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Justice Sarah Brown, a second by Justice Hensley. Discussion.
She's not gonna read the whole thing?
Do you really want to read it?
Any other discussion? Roll call vote.
Holt,
Yes.
Nikki,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Phillips,
Yes.
Hensley,
Yes.
Bradford,
Yes.
Tatum,
Yes.
Lemings,
Yes.
Bass.
Yes.
2021-41.
Okay. And as a matter of just me liking to do this, it's something that's certainly not required, these first two ordinances had emergency clauses on them. I just wanted to read into the minutes that we acknowledged and accepted those emergency clauses. So do I hear a motion to acknowledge those emergency clauses?
Make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Justice Holt and a second by Justice Tatum to acknowledge those emergency clauses. What that means is we only get read one time instead of three, and they take effect immediately. Any discussion on that? All those in favor of acknowledging those emergency clauses signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, our next ordinance is sponsored by Justice Tatum.
Being enacted by the Quorum Court, County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, an appropriation ordinance to be entitled, an appropriation ordinance to amend the original appropriation ordinance 2020-42, the annual operating budget for 2021 to increase the projected revenue and appropriate $1,543.88 into the detention center budget, number 1000-418, and $910.74 into the sheriff's office budget, number 1000-400. Whereas the Van Buren County Sheriff's Office has received a refund of $1,543.88 from the Van Buren County Commissary account for hygiene products for inmates. And whereas $1,543.88 will need to be appropriated into the detention center budget, number 1000-418-2009, inmate supplies. And whereas Van Buren County Sheriff's Office has received a reimbursement in the amount of $396.19 from the prosecutor's office for travel, meals, and lodging. And whereas $396.19 will need to be appropriated into the sheriff's budget, number 1000-400-3094, meals and lodging. Whereas Van Buren County has also received a check in the amount of $250 from Heath Crow Catalytic Converter and Auto Recycling for the registration to purchase used catalytic converters. And whereas $250 will need to be appropriated into the sheriff's office budget, number 1000-400-2001, general supplies. Whereas Van Buren County Sheriff's Office has received a reimbursement of $264.55 from AAC for the towing of a deputy's vehicle. And whereas $264.55 will need to be appropriated into the sheriff's budget, number 1000-400-2023, parts and repairs. Now therefore be it ordained by the Quorum Court, Van Buren County, Arkansas, that section 1, $1,543.88 be appropriated into number 1000-418-2009, inmate supplies for the detention center. Section 2, $396.19 be appropriated into 1000-400-3094, meals and lodging. Section 3, $250 be appropriated into 1000-400-2001, general supplies for the Van Buren County Sheriff's Office. Section 4, $264.55 be appropriated into 1000-400-2023, parts and repairs for the Sheriff's Office. I move we approve as written.
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Justice Tatum, a second by Justice Hensley to adopt this ordinance. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'd like an explanation on this catalytic converter thing in the other one here. What is it? Explain that to me.
Mr. Crow has opened up a recycling center, and he has to pay a fee to be able to purchase. He has to register to purchase catalytic converters, and that comes to the sheriff.
Okay.
So, but he just has to pay that registration one time.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
Is this on the table last month?
Yeah.
Yes.
The same company?
Yes.
Okay.
Good questions. Any other discussion? Roll call vote.
Holt,
Yes.
Nikki.
Yes.
Sarah.
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes.
Hensley.
Yes.
Bradford.
Yes.
Tatum.
Yes.
Lemings.
Yes.
Bath.
Yeah.
2021-42.
Our next ordinance is sponsored by Justice Holt.
Being enacted by the Quorum Court of the County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, appropriation ordinance to be entitled, appropriation ordinance to transfer and appropriate $12,583.91 into the Hospital Maintenance Fund, number 3408-302-3009, other professional services from county general. Whereas the county received a bond rebate in the amount of $12,583.91 from the hospital construction bond, and whereas the hospital board of governors are requesting the funds for maintenance. Now therefore be it ordained by the Quorum Court of Van Buren County, Arkansas, that in Section 1, the sum of $12,583.91 be transferred and appropriated into the hospital maintenance fund number 3408-302-3009, other professional services from county general. I move we approve this ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion by Justice Holt and a second by Justice Sarah Brown to adopt this ordinance. Discussion? Pardon? Nikki, did I say Sarah?
No.
I'm gonna just mess up again. Did I say? Okay, I heard Nikki too. The reason I repeat these is so when we listen to them back, we can get an accurate record. And how are we gonna get an accurate record if I can't say your name straight? Roll call vote.
Holt.
Yes.
Nikki. Yes. Sarah. Yes. Phillips.
Yes.
Hensley.
Yes.
Bradford.
Yes.
Tatum.
Yes.
Lemings.
Yes.
Bass.
Yes.
2021-43.
Our next item is sponsored by Justice Phillips.
Be it enacted by the Quorum Court of the County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, an appropriation ordinance to be entitled, an appropriation ordinance to increase revenues and appropriate $2,596.28 into the Courthouse Annex Fund budget number 1000-0120. Whereas in 2020, the Quorum Court approved an emergency ordinance to replace the HVAC system in the Courthouse Annex. And whereas due to a delay in the original loan processing, 2 payments were made in 2021 that had been originally intended to be paid in 2020. And whereas paying those 2 payments has exhausted the appropriation for this year. And whereas there is a need to appropriate funds to make the payments for November and December. Now therefore be it ordained by the Quorum Court of Van Buren County, Arkansas, that the sum of $2,596.28 be appropriated into the following line items. 1000-0120-5003, note principal, $2,211.83. 1000-0120-5004, note interest, $384.45. I move that we accept this
Second.
ordinance.
We have a motion to adopt by Justice Phillips and a second by Justice Hensley. Any discussion? Roll call.
Yeah, I got a
Oh,
question.
go ahead.
What about the no interest here? Why do we have an interest? I mean, why are we paying interest on that particular thing? I mean, we got the money, why do we pay interest?
It's a bank loan. This is
Okay.
to make payments on the loan that we acquired to
Put the
purchase the
AC units.
HVAC system in this building. And that was approved at the end of it's approved and then there was a delay in the processing which caused the first 2 payments to be made this year instead of last year.
And Virgil, it can be confusing because we do have that money from the ARP funds, but we can't pay anything that's a debt. So we can't use that to pay off things with interest, which would be great if we could, but they won't allow us.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, we have all this money sitting here, why aren't we paying off the stuff? But we can't use it to pay off existing debts.
Gotcha.
I understand what you're saying now. Yeah, we can't, here are the parameters of that money. It can't be used to set in a rainy day fund, can't be used for a reserve fund, can't be used to pay debt services, and it must be spent within 4 years of its receipt.
Does this pay off this loan?
No, it just gives us enough money to make the payments.
You're just making 2 payments that weren't paid in 2000.
Right. Guys, I appreciate all the questions. I like that clarity. I like that you're not just a group of rubber stampers. I appreciate that. Thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call vote.
Holt,
Yes.
Nikki,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Phillips,
Yes.
Hensley,
Yes.
Bradford,
Yes.
Tatum,
Yes.
Lemings,
Yes.
Bass.
Yeah.
2021-44.
Thank you. Next ordinance is sponsored by Justice Lemings.
Be it enacted by the Quorum Court of the County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, an appropriation ordinance to be entitled, an appropriation ordinance to increase revenues and appropriate $120,000 into the county road budget, number 2000, into certain line items. Whereas severance tax revenues continues to pay well above anticipation for 2021, and whereas there is a need to appropriate and increase revenues to cover increased costs. Now therefore be it ordained by the Quorum Court of Van Buren County, Arkansas, that the sum of $120,000 be appropriated into the following line items: 2000-0200-2001, general supplies, $20,000; 2000-0200-2008, tires and tubes, $25,000; 2000-0200-2520, asphalt, $50,000; 2000-0200-2027, gravel, dirt, and sand, $25,000, for a total of $120,000. I move this, we approve this as written.
Second.
We have a motion by Justice Lemings and a second by Justice Phillips to approve this ordinance. Discussion.
I guess this increased the gas prices, right?
I think, yeah.
This services based on that?
Yep, we have, we've been receiving well above what we actually only anticipated a little bit of severance tax revenues for this year, and it's been substantial, so. This appropriates that.
Are you having any trouble getting these items?
These items, not yet. Now, tires, we went ahead, that's one reason we needed to appropriate some money into it. We were told if you don't get them, you're not going to be able to. So we got what we could. Now they are out. So we bought and we went ahead, just because the supply chain is so disrupted. I haven't heard any news of whether these items are going to be in short supply or not, but I went ahead and built up for the winter on sand and salt and all that good stuff. We did some hot mix patching and some cold mix patching which shows up in the asphalt line item as well.
We buy beet juice.
We are going to get some salt with beet juice soon. They're supposed to call me as soon as it's ready.
I was wondering how you stored that. I know a lot of county and state uses it, but
Yep, good stuff. Any other discussion? Roll call vote.
Holt,
Yes.
Nikki,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Phillips,
Yes.
Hensley,
yes.
Bradford,
Yes.
Tatum,
Yes.
Lemings,
Yes.
Bass.
Yes.
2021-45.
Thank you. Our next ordinance is sponsored by Justice Tatum.
Bid enacted by the Quorum Court, County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, an appropriation ordinance to be entitled, an appropriation ordinance to increase revenues and appropriate $7,000 into the solid waste budget number 3009 into certain line items. Whereas solid waste continues to pay above anticipation for 2021, and whereas there is need to appropriate the increased revenue to cover increased costs. Now therefore it be ordained by the Quorum Court, Van Buren County, Arkansas, that the sum of $7,000 be appropriated into the following line items: 3009-0700-2001, general supplies, $3,500; 3009-0700-2008, tires and tubes, $2,500; 3009-0700-2020, building materials and supplies, $1,000, for a total of $7,000. Make a motion we approve this written.
Second.
I have a motion by Justice Tatum and a second by Justice Phillips to adopt this ordinance. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Holt,
Yes.
Nikki,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Phillips,
Yes.
Hensley,
Yes.
Bradford,
Yes.
Tatum,
Yes.
Lemings,
Yes.
Bass.
Yes.
2021-46.
Our next ordinance is sponsored by Justice Hensley, and before he reads this, I would entertain a motion to entertain this one by title only since nothing at all changed from last year to this year.
So be it.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Justice Holt. Actually, we need to suspend the rules. So do I have a motion for
Suspend the
suspension?
rules.
So a motion for suspension by Justice Holt and a second by Justice Phillips to suspend the rules for the purpose of entertaining this ordinance by title only. Any discussion on suspension? Roll call vote for suspension.
Holt,
Yes.
Nikki,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes.
Hensley,
Yes.
Bradford.
Yes.
Tatum, Leming,
Yes.
Lemings, Bass.
Yes.
Okay. So we'll entertain it by title only.
Being enacted by the Quorum Court of the County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled, an ordinance levying and approving the collection for the year 2021, the various property taxes heretofore imposed in Van Buren County. I move we approve as written.
Second.
We have a motion to adopt by Justice Hensley, a second by Justice Holt. Like we said a while ago, no school changed, no anything changed on tax levies. We just have a duty to levy these taxes every year as a quorum court. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Holt,
Yes.
Nikki,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes.
Hensley,
Yes.
Bradford,
Yes.
Tatum,
Yes.
Lemings,
Yes.
Bass.
Yes.
2021-47.
Our next ordinance is sponsored by Justice Bass.
Be enacted by the Quorum Court of the County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, an appropriation ordinance to be entitled, an appropriation ordinance to amend the original appropriation ordinance number 2020-42, annual operating budget for 2021, to increase the projected revenue for the 911 fund and appropriate $70,000 into the 911 budget number 3020-501-3009. Whereas a payment was made in January 2021 for December 2020 to the City of Fairfield Bay for 911 services as contracted, and whereas the extra payment in 2021 has depleted the balance of other professional services for 2021. Now therefore be it ordained by the Quorum Court of Van Buren County, Arkansas, that $70,000, Section 1, $70,000 be appropriated into the 911 budget number 3020-501-3009, other professional services. I move for its adoption.
Second.
We have a motion to adopt by Justice Bass and a second by Justice Phillips. Any discussion?
I think it was Nikki.
Was it really? No, I was going by ear there, so I heard that one wrong. Give it a second by Justice Nikki Brown.
Just making sure we're paying attention.
I'm
I'm gonna have to start sitting out there and looking at this. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Holt,
Yes.
Nikki,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes.
Hensley.
Yes.
Bradford.
Yes.
Tatum.
Yes.
Lemings.
Yes.
Bass.
Yes.
2021-48.
Next ordinance is sponsored by Justice Bradford.
Being enacted by the Quorum Court of the County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, an appropriation ordinance to be entitled, an appropriation ordinance to amend the original appropriation ordinance 2020-42, the annual operating budget for 2021 to increase the projected revenue for county general and appropriate $2,000 into the district court budget 1000-409. Whereas there are bills due that will need to be paid, and whereas the budget is currently low on funds. Now therefore be it ordained by the Quorum Court of Van Buren County, Arkansas, that Section 1, $2,000 be appropriated into the district court budget 1000-409-3094, meals and lodging. I move this ordinance be approved as written.
Second.
We have a motion by Justice Bradford and a second by Justice Hensley to adopt this ordinance. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Holt.
Yes.
Nikki.
Yes.
Sarah.
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes.
Hensley.
Yes.
Bradford.
Yes.
Tatum.
Yes.
Lemings.
Yes.
Bass.
Yes.
2021-59.
Our next ordinance is sponsored by Justice Nikki Brown.
Be it enacted by the Quorum Court of the County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled, an ordinance to approve the assignment of the medical office building owned by the county from Burnt Ridge Enterprises LLC to Conroe Regional Health System. Whereas the county and Ozark Health, Inc. entered into a lease agreement on June 26, 2002, which includes the medical office building described in Exhibit A of the lease agreement. Whereas pursuant to Article 10 of the lease agreement, the leasee, Ozark Health, Inc., cannot assign any properties covered under the lease without written consent of the county. Whereas the medical office building was leased by Burnt Ridge Enterprises LLC, but has been transferred to Conroe Regional Medical Center, DBA, Conroe Regional Health System, the Board of Governors voted to pass this change. Now therefore be it ordained by the Quorum Court of Van Buren County, Arkansas, that the county approve assignment of the lease of the medical office building from Burnt Ridge Enterprises LLC to Conroe Regional Medical Center, DBA, Conroe Regional Health System. I make a motion we approve as written.
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Justice Nikki Brown and a second by Justice Phillips. Any discussion?
Is this what Donnie come and talked to us about?
It is. Okay. At this time, this ordinance is going to require 3 readings. So I would entertain a motion to suspend the rules and entertain the second 2 readings at this meeting by title only.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Justice Phillips and a second by Justice Holt to suspend the rules for the purpose of entertaining the second 2 readings by title only at this meeting. Any discussion on suspension? All those in favor of rules, roll call vote for suspension.
Holt.
Yes.
Nikki.
Yes.
Sarah.
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes.
Hensley.
Yes.
Bradford.
Yes.
Tatum.
Yes.
Lemons.
Yes.
Bass.
Yes.
Justice Hensley, would you care to, or Justice Nikki Brown, would you care to read this a second time by title only?
Being enacted by the Quorum Court of the County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled, an ordinance to approve the assignment of the medical office building owned by the county from Burnt Ridge Enterprises LLC to Conroe Regional Health System.
Okay, third and final reading, please.
Being enacted by the Quorum Court of the County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled, an ordinance to approve the assignment of the medical office building owned by the county from Burnt Ridge Enterprises LLC to Conway Regional Health System.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Roll call vote for adoption.
Holt.
Yes.
Nikki.
Yes.
Sarah.
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes.
Hensley.
Yes.
Bradford.
Yes.
Tatum.
Yes.
Lemings.
Yes.
Bass.
Yes.
2021-50.
Our next item is a resolution which is sponsored by Justice Mary Phillips, and this resolution will be read in its entirety.
This is resolution number 2021. A resolution of the Quorum Court of Van Buren County, Arkansas, supporting the establishment of an income tax credit for full-time law enforcement officers in the state of Arkansas. Whereas the Governor's Task Force to advance the state of law enforcement in Arkansas recommended legislation that eases the state income tax burden on our active full-time law enforcement officers, and recommended ensuring that entry-level salaries for law enforcement officers be equivalent to or above the average annual wage in Arkansas. Whereas the average annual wage for full-time law enforcement officers in Arkansas ranks 49th in the nation and averages $40,750 annually, below the average statewide wage in Arkansas of $42,690, and the average entry-level wage for law enforcement officers in Arkansas is $28,610, barely above the yearly earnings of a minimum wage worker. Whereas law enforcement officers in the state of Arkansas risk their lives every day working long hours for subpar wages, while Arkansas has one of the highest violent crime rates in the U.S. and ranks as the fourth most dangerous state in the nation. Whereas the governor's task force to advance the state of law enforcement in Arkansas identified the incredibly low salaries and limited agency funding to be the biggest barriers to law enforcement retention, recruitment, and hiring. Whereas the governor's task force to advance the state of law enforcement recommended a state income tax credit for full-time law enforcement officers in order to substantially promote retention, recruitment, hiring, and a boost in morale and greater economic security for full-time law enforcement officers and their families. Whereas the 93rd General Assembly of the State of Arkansas was duly presented legislation SB 304 of 2021 during the 2021 regular session of the General Assembly, which sought to establish a $3,000 non-refundable state income tax to full-time law enforcement officers. However, SB 304 was not voted on, passed, or adopted into law. Whereas the state of Arkansas now has unprecedented record surpluses, and the governor of the state of Arkansas intends to call a special session of the General Assembly to consider and adopt numerous state income tax credits and rate reduction measures, which in the aggregate will total hundreds of millions of dollars. Whereas the sponsors of SB 304 have expressed an intent to file legislation seeking to establish a refundable state income tax credit for all full-time law enforcement officers in the sum of $3,000 to be duly considered by the members of General Assembly of the State of Arkansas for their deliberation and to be adopted during the anticipated special session of the General Assembly of the State of Arkansas. Now therefore, the Quorum Court of Van Buren County, Arkansas hereby resolves to fully and robustly support full-time law enforcement officers in Arkansas, to back the blue, and to advocate our members of the General Assembly, the governor, and the members of the General Assembly as a whole for the due consideration and adoption by the General Assembly and signing by the governor of Arkansas of legislation creating a state income tax credit for full-time law enforcement officers, that the full-time law enforcement income tax credit legislation include signed verification requirements before a full-time law enforcement officer may qualify for the state income tax credit, and respectfully encourage the full-time law enforcement state income tax credit legislation to be a legislative priority of the General Assembly and the governor of the state of Arkansas. A copy of this resolution should be provided to your legislators requesting them to co-sponsor the proposed legislation. I move that we give support to this resolution.
Second.
We have a motion to adopt this resolution by Justice Phillips and a second by Justice Tatum. Discussion.
I think it's long overdue.
I'm just appalled that we're the fourth most dangerous state
Yeah.
in the nation. I had no idea we were that.
Yeah,
Wow.
me too.
Thank you for protecting us, sir.
Any other discussion? Roll call vote.
Holt,
Yes.
Nikki,
Yes.
Sarah,
Absolutely.
Phillips,
Yes.
Hensley,
Yes.
Bradford,
Yes.
Tatum,
Yes.
Lemings,
Yes.
Bass.
Oh, yeah.
2021-17.
Thank you. Our next resolution will be read by title only by Justice Hensley.
Be it resolved by the Quorum Court of the County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, a resolution to be entitled, "A Resolution Authorizing and Approving Execution of an Equipment Lease Purchase Agreement with KS State Bank for the purpose of lease purchasing certain equipment." Move that we approve or adopt as written.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion to adopt by Justice Hensley and a second by Justice Nikki Brown to adopt this resolution. What this is just like last year, we had some dump trucks that were on a purchase program on a 5-year balloon. At the end of the 5 years, we could choose to keep them, finish paying them off, or turn them in, get more. All this does is continue to make those payments, pay them off, and then we own them. Because they're good trucks, we want to keep them. Any other discussion? Roll call vote.
Holt,
Yes.
Nikki,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes.
Hensley,
Yes.
Bradford,
Yes.
Tatum,
Yes.
Lemings.
Yes.
Bass.
Yes.
2021-18.
Thank you. Our next resolution, as earlier in the agenda items, was agreed to be picked up by Justice Holt.
A resolution authorizing the county judge of Van Buren County, Arkansas, to enter into a purchase contract for Cascade Systems for Denard Fire Department. Do you have help in?
No, title only is fine. Okay, do I hear a motion to adopt?
Have a motion to adopt this?
Second.
I have a motion to adopt by Justice Holt, a second by Justice Tatum to adopt this resolution. Any discussion?
Yes, thanks, Tim.
This is a requirement for the grant that the Denard Fire Department received. It was a federal grant, so we've had to pass several resolutions for the same allotment. And it's just more of that.
What that cascade system is, it fills up their air bottles that they use to go inside the fire extinguisher.
Good question. Any other discussion? Roll call vote.
Holt,
Yes.
Nikki,
Yes.
Sarah.
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes.
Hensley,
Yes.
Bradford,
Yes.
Tatum,
Yes.
Lemings.
Yes.
Bass.
Yes.
2021-19.
Do I hear a motion to entertain the transfers by title only?
So moved. Second.
Well, there's not really title. To dispense with the audible readings of the transfers.
So moved.
We have a motion by Justice Phillips, a second by Justice Holt, to dispense with the audible reading of the transfers. All those in favor of approving the transfers, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We conducted a lot of business tonight, guys, in a relatively short amount of time. Does anyone have any closing remarks before we call an adjournment? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Adjourn.
Any opposed? Thank you.